I've made a lot of videos about Sideswipe cars on this channel. I've made videos about hitboxes, way too many of those, car designs, paint colors. I also compared the cars in Rocket League and Sideswipe, and that was a fun one. No. And I even made 2 videos trying to figure out what the best cars in the game were. However, I've never done a tier list. Well, that's all about to change, because this is the first and probably last ever Mogz Sideswipe car tier list video. Enjoy! Alright, so basically the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it live, firstly. I'm not going to do any pre-recording stuff. But basically what I've done is I've got a huge list of data here with all of the hitbox scores, the middle point scores, which means that the car's good or bad for stalls. And I've also got all of the engine audio information. So I can see whether the cars have a unique engine audio or whether they share an engine audio with other cars. And also my preferences. So I have a few of my favorite engine audios. Anyway, let's get into it. The first car is the Aftershock. So where are we going to put the Aftershock? So I think the Aftershock is a pretty good car, actually. It got a decent score in terms of the hitbox and middle point stuff. So it's actually a fairly good car. I don't know how many, I rarely see people using it, but it was one of the most popular cars back in the day. This one doesn't have a unique engine audio. It shares it with a few other cars, and it's one of the most common. And I think it's not great either. So I've decided to put it around B tier. I think it's good. It's definitely usable. I think it's pretty good for stalls, but it is definitely not A or S tier. And it's not bad at all. So definitely doesn't deserve any lower than that. All right, so next one is the Breakout. So the Breakout is not really a great car for hitbox or anything. It's one of the long cars. I don't think it's very good for stalls either. Although this is kind of one of the preferred cars. I think a lot of people use it, especially like freestylers. But I would say a lot of that just comes from the fact that it's a freestyler car in Rocket League. So it has that kind of sweatlord freestyler vibe about it, or reputation. So, but it's not bad. However, yeah, I'm going to put it around D tier. It's not one of the worst, nowhere near one of the best. Just one of those kind of average long cars. And it's got the same engine audio as the Aftershock. So, yeah, just one of the most common ones. Before we get into the next section,
a huge shout out to ExpressVPN.
If you've ever wanted to play games in a different region or browse the web securely, ExpressVPN is how you do it.
Hey, that's a good idea.
I can tell you from experience it 100% works, and the ping's actually decent too.
Wow, great ping.
And right now, every single Mogz viewer is gonna get a huge discount of 3 months off all 12-month subscriptions, meaning it just got a whole lot cheaper for you to jump into a different region and destroy your opponents over there.
Yay, you can play with Daddy.
So go check out ExpressVPN via the link on screen and in the video description. Alright, the next one is the Centio. So the Centio is pretty bad, really. Didn't get good scores on anything. That's a really long car, terrible hitbox, terrible midpoint. Yeah, nothing good about it at all. Shares an engine audio. It's fairly unique engine audio, but it does share it with a couple of other cars, and it's just one of those really generic ones. So we're gonna put it right down at the bottom. Not quite the bottom, but E tier. Centio is not a very good car, and I'd never see anyone using it. Chikara, speaking of terrible cars, the Chikara G1 got really bad scores for hitbox. However, the midpoint was pretty good. The midpoint was 4th. It was one of the best in the game. So this car, yeah, it shares an engine audio with a lot of cars, so it's one of the most common. So that's not going to give it a bump in score at all. But yeah, this is not a very good car either. So I am going to put this at D tier as well with the Breakout, pretty bad car, really. Nothing going for it. It probably would be F or E if it didn't have the decent midpoint. So it's kind of good for stalls, but the hitbox is just garbage. So yeah. All right, next one is the Cyclone. This is another not very good one. The Cyclone, bad hitbox, basically the same as the Chikara G1. Midpoint was okay, not terrible. Fairly good, actually. One of the, yeah, sort of average one. A little bit above average, maybe. And the engine audio is fairly unique, although not completely unique. But yeah, I mean, it's not a good car. It's just not really good in any way, really. And again, I don't think I ever see anyone using it. So this one is going to go safely around E. Probably would be F if it wasn't... if it didn't have like a super common engine audio. It's got a, yeah, shares it, but it's not totally, that's not one of the most common. All right, next one, the Diestro. So as you guys probably know, this is one of my least favorite cars in the game. However, it does have a unique engine audio. I'm not sure if that's something you guys knew about it, but yeah, this one does have a unique engine audio. So I would probably put this F or maybe E. However, because it has a unique engine audio, I'm going to put it at D. So yeah, still pretty bad. Still a car I would definitely not use, but not absolutely horrible. Okay, the next one is the Dingo. So the Dingo's a fairly, yeah, average car, really. The hitbox is quite good. It's right up there with the Aftershock. It doesn't have a unique engine audio. Shares it with a few other cars. The midpoint's not great, pretty average. And yeah, so this car's very, very average, in fact. I don't think I would use it. I don't really like the shape of it. I think the body's a little bit too long. I much prefer the Octane. So it's average. I'm going to give it a C. That's going to go right there in the middle. All right, the Dominus. This is an interesting one. This might be kind of controversial. I'm not sure. It's not that popular of a car these days, but it used to be one of the main cars in the game that people were using. That might have just been because there weren't that many cars in the game back then, but this car is actually really good for stalls. It's like one of the best cars in the game for stalls. It has I think it has the best midpoint in the game, actually. Right up there with the Octane and the Type S. So those three cars all have perfect midpoints. So if you swear by this car as a stall machine, then you're right, because it's really good for that. So this one will get a big bump for the midpoint. And the hitbox itself wasn't very good. It was kind of average, or even one of the worst. Pretty bad hitbox, but that doesn't really matter that much if you get used to it and you don't mind the sort of the bits of the front and back that don't, match up, that are kind of missing. And this also has a unique engine audio, so yeah, really good. So it's not S tier, it's not quite up there, but it is A tier. That unique engine audio definitely helps, and the fact that it's an amazing staller pushes it way up. So the hitbox doesn't matter so much. So yeah, Dominus, really good car. All right, next one is the Dominus GT. So the Dominus GT is fairly similar to the Dominus, actually extremely similar in both hitbox and midpoint. So it's good for stalls as well. It doesn't have a unique engine audio, unfortunately, but it does have one of the rarer ones. It's the second best for stalls, so not quite up to the Dominus's level. But yeah, I mean, it's close enough, honestly. It's not too far off. So I think if you wanted to substitute the Dominus for the GT, you could, and therefore I'm going to put it up right up there at A tier alongside the Dominus. Next one is the Endo. Where's our Endo? Our Endo is there. So the Endo is pretty average for hitbox. A bit worse than the Dominus, actually. Sorry, a bit better than the Dominus, rather. And it is okay for midpoint, so it's not a bad staller. It's a fairly average car, really. and it has a unique engine audio, so that kind of bumps up a little bit, but not massively. I'm going to put it around C, just because, yeah, super average in every way. I could bump it up maybe to B just for the engine audio, but it's not that important. So. The Fennec is our next car. I am a massive Fennec fan. I was a Fennec main for a very long time. The Fennec has an excellent hitbox, one of the best in the game. It has also a decent midpoint, not terrible. Not really one of the best, but it is fairly average in that regard. And then it also has a unique engine audio, which, yeah, I never really knew. I never really realized that. So this car is wonderful. It's just really good and really solid in pretty much every way. For stalls, it's not too bad. It is fairly average, but it's a little bit, I would say, above average. And the unique engine audio as well is good. So because of the hitbox as well, the hitbox is pretty much the best in the game. I think it's just behind the Octane. And as you guys know, Octane's the best car in the game. So we're going to put it up here, S tier, our first S tier car on our list. The Fennec is one that a lot of pros swear by. It's one of the most popular cars for pro players. And so you cannot put it anywhere but S. All right, next one is the Komodo. So the Komodo is a fairly interesting one. I wouldn't have expected to put this as high as I did. It is average in terms of its hitbox, but it is pretty good for stalls. It's right behind the best cars, really. I mean, it's near perfect for stalls. I think it was third place is how it came in. So Dominus GT, and then the Komodo. So really, really good. It doesn't have a unique engine audio, but it is one of the rarest ones. And so therefore, I'm going to put it up at B tier. I think it deserves a B, solid B. Definitely above average. Not quite A. Not quite as good as the Dominus, but yeah, it is a great car. All right, next one. Although not very popular, I don't see it very often. Next one is the Mantis. Mantis is a pretty terrible car in most respects. Hitbox is really bad, one of the worst in the game. The midpoint was horrid. I think it literally was the worst in the game because it's such a long car. And so it gets 0 points there. The only redeeming feature of this car is that it has a totally unique engine audio, which is actually pretty cool. I might give you a demo, but yeah, it's quite an interesting one. I would put it at F, however, because of that totally unique engine audio, which I do quite like, I am going to bump it up to D. So the Mantis gets a solid bump, just really for the engine audio, and it's such a unique car as well, you know. And if you could kind of block out the back of it, like if just in your mind, if you just block out that back wheel, the hitbox is perfect. So yeah, that's sort of up to how your like mental gymnastics, but anyway, that's a D tier for me. All right, next one is the Marauder. The Marauder is an interesting one. Yeah, this is a really good hitbox, actually, this car. One of the best hitboxes in the game. The midpoint was not great. It was a little bit let down by that. It was fairly average, if not below average. So that got a kind of a big bump down for its midpoint. It's not really very good for stalls. But yeah, and also the engine audio, whilst it is a cool and interesting engine audio, it does share it with a bunch of other cars. And so I'm going to bump this down to average C tier. Engine audio is good. I like it, but it's not very good for stalls. Hitbox is good. Yeah, actually, no. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put this at B tier. I don't think it's any worse than the Aftershock or the Komodo, no way. The fact that it has that cool engine audio and it's really good hitbox, I think makes it B. Yeah, so I'm going to change my score that I had written down here. I'm going to make that a B tier. All right, the next car is the Masamune. So this car is not great. It's pretty average in all respects, really. The hitbox is average. Middle point was, yeah, pretty bad, actually. This is one of the worst cars in the game for stalls. It's kind of just behind the, or just in front of the Diestro. It's pretty bad. And then it doesn't have a unique engine. It's got one of the most common engine audios in the game. So, yeah, this is not a great car. Below average. I'm going to give it a D. I definitely wouldn't recommend you use this. Pretty bad car, really. All right, the next one is, what do we got? We got the Maverick is our next one. Maverick's a cool looking car. I quite like this just for its appearance. But I'm not really scoring them on appearances. Although maybe I could. Yeah, but no, it's just average. Hitboxes was okay on this one, not too bad. Midpoint was not great. What else we got? The engine audio was fairly common, one of the most common ones, or kind of average commonness. So yeah, I don't really like this car very much. I was thinking of giving it a D, but the hitbox is not too bad. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a D. It's just not. This is nothing special. All right, next one. This is an interesting one. The Merc. So the Merc is another one that used to be one of the most common cars in the game. However, just like the Dominus, maybe that was just because it was, there weren't that many cars. But I actually rate it pretty highly. I think it's really good for I think it's decent for stalls. I don't think it's bad at all. I found it really easy to find that middle point. Even though I didn't give it a high score, I gave it, fairly average score for midpoint. Its hitbox was okay. And if you can just cut off the top and you don't care about that, which doesn't matter anyway, then I would bump the hitbox score up. So I think even though technically the hitbox is bad, actually the roof doesn't really matter anyway. So I'm going to put this all the way up at A tier. I think this is probably one of the best cars, and it is rated fairly highly by some pros. So I think it deserves A tier. I wouldn't put it at S, but I think there's no way it's B. It's way better than a Komodo. I mean, come on. So yeah, I think the Merc is a solid car, one of the best in the game. Next one, the Nemesis. The Nemesis is pretty average by most respects. Actually, pretty good for stalls. So this one, and the other thing is it has a unique engine audio. So actually, I was gonna score this a C, but it's definitely above average. Unique engine audio, even though the engine audio is not super special, it actually got a second place for stalls. So this is actually a fairly good stall car. So I'm gonna put this at B. So I'm gonna upgrade my score, my original score. So it's not C, it's definitely B. Yeah, I think it's basically in line with these ones. Not quite A tier. But yeah, the Nemesis is a good car. All right, now, next one, the Octane, the one and only. So I really don't think I need to say anything about this one. It's just the best car in the game, hands down. It's got the best hitbox. It has the best... it doesn't have the best midpoint, really, if you don't cut off the top, like the wing at the back, which I did when I scored it, because I think it's easy to just ignore that in your mind. Because I did adjust those scores, by cutting off the little edge bits, because I thought that made it a little bit fairer. But yeah, S tier. Yeah, I don't need to say anything about that. It's just easily one of the best cars. S tier all the way. It's the definition of S tier, really. All right, the next one is the R3MX, or the Remix, whatever you want to call it. Remix, I guess. This one's fairly average. Yeah, it doesn't have anything going for it, really. The midpoint's okay. It's okay for stalls. Doesn't have it's got a shared engine audio, but one of the least common ones. So hitbox is okay, not great. It's just average. It's C. There's nothing special about it, but it's not terrible. All right, the next one is the Scarab. So the Scarab's a really interesting one. Again, this is one of the most common cars back in the early days. I think it is actually one of the best cars. The hitbox is damn near perfect. The midpoint is actually terrible if you look at the back wheel, but the back wheel kind of sticks out a lot. So if you ignore that and you just look at the body and the front wheel, it's perfect. So I actually think this is one of the best cars. The engine audio is not unique. It's very common, but it's so unique, isn't it? Just the appearance. I give it an A tier, solid. You could give it B maybe, but it's definitely better than all of them. And some people are cracked with it. It used to be so common back in the day. So Scarab is, yeah, I think a really great car. Underrated these days. Now for the Takumi. So the Takumi, this car is a real special one. This is basically one of the highest rated cars for pro players. I asked a ton of pros what cars they use, and so many of them said Takumi. You see it all the times in pro lobbies. Just most people using it, that and the Octane and the Fennec. And I gave this, you know, the top 3 places as well. I think it was top 2, maybe 3 for the best car video that I did. It's got a great hitbox, very, very nice. Midpoint was decent too. This is a fantastic car, right up there with the Octane and Fennec at S-Class. All right, next one, the Twinzer. The Twinzer is a good car. This is a really Octane level hitbox. Wonderful car. Very underrated. People don't use it much these days at all. I don't think they ever really did. It's not great for stalls. I did notice, yeah, it didn't get a really good score for that. It does have a unique engine audio, which I think is one of the coolest engine audios in the game. I'll give you guys a demo of it. It's really cool. It's the only engine audio that has this little stutter in it that sounds so like realistic for like a real kind of dirt buggy. So anyway, have a listen. This is so cool. So, for that reason, this may be controversial, and I could definitely bump this down to B. But for the engine audio and the fact that the hitbox is so good, even though the midpoint's not that great, I want to give that an A tier. I could put it like in between. I might actually put it in between. I'm going to give that a B+. It is a wonderful car, though I highly recommend that you check it out. If you don't like using the Octane because it's too popular, but you like the shape of it, check out the Twinzer for sure. All right, next one is the Type S, so the Breakout Type S. This car is pretty damn good, actually. This has a fairly average hitbox. Didn't score very high there, but the midpoint is 0. Like the midpoint is right in the middle. So this car is fantastic for stalls. And so therefore, along with where did I put the Breakout? The regular Breakout. I put the Breakout down there. Why is this one better? Let me just have a look at my data here. So the Breakout is, I put down at D. Wow, because the midpoint wasn't very good. The Type S actually has a better midpoint, much better than the original Breakout. So this is actually a better car. The engine audio is the same as the Breakout, so it's not unique at all. The Type S, I was gonna give A tier, but I think that's too high. I'm gonna put this at B tier. I don't think that it's good for stalls. That's really all. It doesn't have anything else going for it. So no, actually, I'm gonna put it at the same as the Twinzer. I think, yeah, this is a kind of a good kind of middle ground car in between A and B. All right, next one is the Venom. So the Venom is a really good car, actually underrated. Really good hitbox, one of the best in the game. Midpoint's not great. Midpoint was pretty average, unfortunately. If it had a better midpoint, I would have scored it maybe at A tier. I'm going to give this a B tier. Pretty average, a little bit above average. But yeah, not too bad at all. All right, second last car is the Werewolf. And I think you know where we're going with this one. The Werewolf is a pretty horrible car. There's nothing, it really doesn't have anything going for it. Absolutely atrocious hitbox. Midpoint, super average. Just an awful car. It actually has a fairly unique engine audio, but it is not one of the, it's not totally unique. This is F tier. This is a terrible car. I don't want to see anyone using this. It's just got nothing going for it, guys. All right, and then the last one on the list is the Whiplash. So the Whiplash is, again, has nothing going for it. It is a totally unique car in the sense that, like, it's rare. So not many people have it because it was a promo car. And you know, but other than that, it's awful. It has a really bad hitbox, a really bad midpoint, and this car is trash. So put it all the way down at the bottom at F. And there we go. There is our final tier list. So nobody is surprised. We have Fennec, Octane, Takumi at the top, S tier. Beautiful cars. We have the Dominus GT, Merc, and Scarab at A tier. Quality cars, all of them. Super high quality. You cannot go wrong using any of these. Particularly for stalls, these two are really, really good. And then we have the Twinzer and the Breakout Type S at B+ tier. And then we have the rest of our cars with these horrible ones right down at the bottom at F tier. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. That was my first ever tier list that I've ever done on this channel. Let me know what you guys think. If you want me to do more of these kind of videos, let me know down in the comments. Come join the Mogz Discord server to hang out with me and other Mogz viewers, as well as to participate in all of my videos. I have a constant video series and, you know, participation opportunities for all of you guys. So come join the Mogz Discord server. And as always, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if not, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.